movie that I helped. A feature movie that I helped produce, and it's all spoken in English. American actors and English actors. We flew them to Portugal. 60% of the movie was shot in Portugal, and the rest was shot in Connecticut and New York.
What is the name of the movie?
It's called Regret.
And when can we all buy it? Because we're all going to buy it.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking care of.
I want to encourage all of us to like get this movie and support Miguel.
Yeah, well, that's no, it's not easy. Sorry.
You still got my DVD up there?
Yeah.
So when will it be for sale?
Well, I don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still negotiating. We've got some things going out. I'm going to meet with our reps in Hollywood, exactly, and with some reps to. Sorry.
Who's in it? Anybody know?
What the reps?
Who's in it? Actors?
No, not everybody. No, I don't think so. The only one. No, the only one is a young guy. He's called. His name is Kent Moran, and he actually shot the last film with that actor that died, that Michael Duncan something. You know that big guy. He died. The last movie he shot was with him.
Are you casting for any other films?
No, not at this point. No. You were an actress as well?
Could it be?
No. Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Los Angeles, Hollywood to meet with some maybe distribution.
Exactly. To help us distribute in South America and North America.
And when would it possibly be?
I think it might be, if everything goes okay, maybe at the end of this year or beginning of
I just
2014.
want everyone here to kind of look out for this movie, almost regardless of what the genre is. I think it would be cool to buy a movie for them.
It's a psychological thriller.
It'll be on iTunes, right?
Yeah, yes, it will be on iTunes.
Need a guy to play a guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind too. Yeah, I can show you the trailer afterwards.
Didn't you
Okay.
start doing the promotional app? You were making an app.
No, I've got an app for it.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
do have an app for it. I
Yeah.
was testing. It was my first app actually.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm gonna redesign it now to get it ready to come out.
So your way to go. Thank you for coming all the way.
Thank you for having me.
I got you a little gift. It's a little bit of a nerd gift, but I wasn't sure I was going to give you this gift. Because I got another little secret thing I could give you. Miguel doesn't do Android programming. He's an iOS guy. And
Yeah, iOS smart.
he may just be intimidated, or he might not have a gadget. So I got you a gadget you can put.
Oh
your
man,
app
come on.
on.
Oh man, that's too much.
An account or a network, it's all self-contained. This Nexus 7, by the way, everybody, if you're an Android developer, this is absolutely the best, from my experience, the best platform to be testing on. It's faster than a simulator. I mean, plug it into your computer and compile, and it's instantly running. You don't have to worry about all that simulator stuff. It's got some developer tools on it because it's very Google-centric in terms of the kind of raw Android OS. It doesn't have a bunch of layers of stuff on it. So
Well,
take that
thank
home.
you very much. I can't, let me just let me thank. Yeah.
No export law on that thing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's not as cool as that pink scarf you put on.
It's not pink, it's red. Okay.
Yeah, okay. My little mic was off.
Yeah, no, he can wear pink. Yeah, but
Hey, so let's talk about making some money. Making money with apps. Can anyone do this? Show of hands. Who thinks anyone can make money with apps? One guy? Two guys? Three guys? Four folks? Five? Six? Who thinks no, it's only for a select few? Super ninja programmers, people willing to work their butt off, all that kind of stuff. Couple?
You say you can, so yeah, you can, yeah.
Sure. So, from my experience, making money with apps the traditional way is really hard. It's really, really hard. And when I talk about the traditional way, the conventional thinking, generally speaking, if you were to Google how to make money with apps, it's going to be a pretty short list. Put ads in them, right? Sell stuff, retail them, meaning retail the app, $1 each or something like that. Copy somebody else's app and retail that. I think we all know what that means. Reskinning. Does anybody want to take a shot at reskinning? What does that mean? Nobody? Change the appearance, but basically the same thing, right? Do you guys know Temple Run? Yeah. Does anybody want to tell us what Temple Run is? Who said yeah? Tell us what Temple Run is, Keith.
It's a simple running game where you're just running through a maze, picking up coins.
Okay, so you say running game. Can we all identify with what running game is? Yeah? Is there anyone here who doesn't know what a running game is? Running game is basically a person who's running through something and never really moves, and the background moves, and it looks like he's running through a forest or down a trail. The interesting thing about Temple Run is before Temple Run, there basically weren't running games. Right? I mean, there were some, but no big giant hits. And now that this big hit showed up, all of a sudden running games are all the thing. Right? And there's sites about how to make a running game, and there's systems that'll help you make a running game, and there's all this kind of running game stuff. So reskinning is basically saying, I'm going to take a game like Temple Run, super popular, millions and millions of downloads, a lot of money to changing hands, and he's not going to run down a trail and avoid crazy monkeys. He's going to run down a city street and avoid crazy thugs with sticks or something. Right? Same game, different skin. So if you can picture the jungle moving past the runner, who, technically speaking, the runner's not going anywhere. He's just making the running motion, and the imagery is moving by. The background is moving past. Change the background to buildings, some graffiti. Get maybe 15 of those. By the time you get to the 15th one and it repeats, it looks basically good enough. Change the runner to a thug, gangster guy, or criminal, or pretty girl escaping someone, or whatever. Change the people, the villains. In Temple Run, it's monkeys, trying to get you. Yeah, and there's crazy sounds, right? So you change the sound effects with Ian sounds to, whatever, some tough guy. Boom, you think you got a home run, right? So that's reskinning. So I'm showing these to you up here because all of this sounds easy, right? Let's just reskin Jungle Runner or whatever. Let's just put ads in our app that's going to get downloaded 400 million times. Let's sell in-app purchases to thousands of people who use my sports score app and they want a score or whatever for $1 or something. Let's retail my magic app that everyone will care about. I would argue that very few people can ever do this. It sounds easy, but it isn't that easy. So there's some people in our community who have made a lot of money doing these kinds of things. And I'm certainly not here to say that there's something wrong with these kinds of things, right? It's part of our industry. It's part of what we can do. And Chris and I have talked a lot about kind of like philosophically where I stand on some of these approaches, things like plagiarizing and things like leveraging people's brands and things like taking popular culture items. Who were we just listening to? Gangnam Style, right? 40 Gangnam Style apps came out in a week, and I'm not an advocate of that kind of gold mining. Not because it may not work, but just because personally, that doesn't interest me. It doesn't interest David to look at the popular things and try to make an app around that with the sole intent of driving traffic to the app to then make a little bit of cash. I'm all about creating and making something fun and useful, lasting, all that kind of stuff. And so, without beating a dead horse, there's reputable people, teaching how to make a portfolio of these apps and how you can keep them flowing through your system and you can create this kind of cash-generating business. All true. You can totally do that. I'm not an expert nor interested in having a big discussion about that kind of stuff, but it is important that we bring up that those are all happening, and it's fine, but I don't think it's easy at all. So this conversation we're going to have relates to this kind of stuff. Look, there's an F here that's missing. I promise it's there, but my PDF exporter from my free and open source Microsoft Word Open Office forgot my font. Let's take a shot about discussing these two pictures. Generally speaking, is there a difference between these two pictures? Anybody can talk. Or are they basically the same thing? What are these people doing? We'll give you a couple seconds here. Food. I heard food. Tell me where food's involved.
I thought it was. I can't.
Oh, these people carrying food? Yeah. I don't know, maybe. Bags full of stuff. It's definitely not where I'm going with this, but any stabs at what I'm trying to get at here?
Well, they're both rectangle.
Rectangle? Oh, the pictures themselves. Yeah, okay. Everybody's working. There's a big one right there. Anything else? Let's talk about everybody working. Let's get a little specific about everybody working.
One's using leverage.
One's using a tool, maybe. Awesome. One's using their body and their, physique. These people up here, and this is just me. This is just my way of thinking. I don't know any of this. It's interesting to talk about this in terms of making money. These people on the top, clearly working with their muscles, clearly working what appears to be very hard. I have no idea what they're carrying and no idea where they're carrying it, but something gives me the idea that they do this all the time, and they're probably hiking from whatever market to home and carrying their corn or whatever they're carrying. Certainly not a way I'd like to make a living, but possible, right? They do it. I used to fix cars for a living, a lot. Pretty good mechanic, still am. Years and years and years, young guy, busting my knuckles, replacing water pumps, doing brake jobs. I mean, I was good at it, super good at it. And when I was new at it, I had a pretty crappy set of tools. And then the tool truck would come by, the Snap-on truck would come by the shop, and I was encouraged by my older mentors to start spending some money on tools, and so I gathered these tools together, and pretty soon I started getting more efficient at it. I had some pretty good tools, and I kind of became this guy. And I could do a lot more with this tool that I invested money in than just my hands and all that stuff. I guess he's building a fence or whatever. And that worked for a little while, but still it was kind of bogus. I mean, how long am I going to do this? It was hard. Maybe forever, which would have been fine, but maybe not forever. And so I got to thinking about, instead of working with my muscles and my body, maybe if I worked with my brain instead of my tools in a literal sense, and my arms and my back. I used to be pretty big. Skinny now. I wasn't quite as big as Tony, but I had muscles. I worked hard. I thought maybe if I just thought about this stuff a little bit, how can I work with my brain to make money, maybe for 50 years instead of working with my body for 30? I don't know. I mean, I honestly didn't know. And of course, that was right around the same time that the whole, turned on to computers and all that stuff for me started. This is a long time ago, but that's part of what made it so interesting or whatever. So the thing that was interesting to me was not necessarily saving myself, but when you're fixing cars, in terms of physically, although I thought about that, if you're fixing cars or you're working with basic tools or working with your body, generally speaking, your circle of opportunity is pretty small, probably around like your hometown. My hometown, I fixed all the cars. Basically didn't have any more opportunity. I was the guy. David will fix your car. Awesome. Well, what if there aren't any more cars to fix? So if you work like that, your opportunity circle, your circle of opportunity, which is just an idea that I came up with, was very, very, very small. But if you work with your brain, maybe we can have a bigger circle of opportunity, especially when you combine that with this internet thing. Now we have this mobile thing, which is in a very real, literal sense. I mean, people downloading these apps from countries and faraway places that you would have never imagined that they would stumble across your application. Of course, those are all opportunities. So anyway, this brain idea is what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to show you this next slide, which is blank. We're going to spend the last 30 minutes talking about how I think people should be thinking about making money with apps. So our compiler and our BuzzTouch site, Xcode, Eclipse, our BuzzTouch site, things like PhoneGap, things like, I don't know, throw some other ones out there, iBuild app, Titanium, right? Those are all wonderful, magical tools. Very necessary to do what we do. Very necessary. They're the crowbar, right? You got to have that thing. Maybe even invest in it, depending on which one you choose. Might be free, might not be free. Certainly some time needs to be invested. And it's kind of a prerequisite and a mandatory part of making software. There's no doubt about that. But I would argue that if you think that that's where your value lies in this money-making idea, in other words, I'm a coder, or I'm a programmer, or I can make an app and make money just by making the app, I would argue that you're thinking kind of short, you're a little short-sighted. And the reason that I say that is, yeah, it's a mystical secret power that we all have right now, but it's not as mystical and secret as it was, or as it's going to be maybe a year from now or a year before, right? A year ago, far less people knew how to do what you guys know how to do. A year from now, far more people will know how to do what you needed. So technically, I don't think that's where all the value lies. It's going to get easier and easier and easier to write code. It's going to get easier and easier and easier to build an app in a mechanical sense. In a mechanical sense. Now, that doesn't mean everyone will do it. It doesn't mean it's going to be mainstream. I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying that as time goes on, think about web development and what that is worth today. Maybe not much. I remember people offering me lots of money to be the webmaster, right? That was a term. That was an industry. That was a business. That was a legitimate professional field to be in. And there are still webmasters today by name and title, but generally speaking, I think we can all agree that that industry and that profession is a little less respected, right? It's not, ooh, he's a webmaster. It's, oh, he's a webmaster, right? It's not $100 an hour, because there's a stigma now. It's not $100 an hour. It might be $20 an hour. It might not even be by the hour. It might be $500 once kind of thing. And so that isn't anybody's fault, and it certainly doesn't mean that those webmasters don't have a ton of skill. It just means that, remember that market maturation thing? The market matured, a couple of years go by, and that's where all your focus was in terms of your living, was making websites, and now that's not really available to you. So I'm just making the comparison between what we do technically, code, tools, compilers, BuzzTouch sites, things like that, as necessary as they are, very necessary. I don't think it's necessarily wise to build your business around selling that technical skill. Doesn't mean it's not worth money. And I hope that I'm making sense when I say that. And I do think that it's wise to sell other expertise that you have, other insights that you have, other perspectives that you have that are very, very hard to compete with. All of you guys are experts in something. Niraj is clearly an expert in documents, clearly, making documents. I mean, I was almost embarrassed watching him do that. I was like, really? Right? I mean, it was awesome. And so, as it relates to applications, one of the common things that I didn't put on that list that most of us don't really talk about, and it's just kind of under the current, is this idea that you're going to develop for hire. And when I say develop for hire and make an app for a client, most of us think that you're going to charge them whatever, $5,000 for your skill in the technical side of things. You're going to charge the money, $5,000, to make them an app and compile it because they can't. Which is true, of course. That's part of it. But the true value that you bring to that person who wants to pay you to make the app is not your ability to compile. And it's not your ability to submit to the App Store. And it's not your ability to copy and paste code from others who will share it with you. It's important, but it's not the true value. The true value is your understanding of the whole entire process and the ecosystem and the problems that these people are going to run into that they don't even know anything about. And we were talking yesterday about hiring an attorney. An attorney doesn't have any secret knowledge. None. It's all printed in those big books behind him in his office. It's all free to look up. It's all free to discover. It's all freely available. But if I was arrested in court and threatened with a bunch of prisoners or whatever, I'd hire an attorney to interpret that information, and I would pay him a ton of money, or her, because I trust that this person knows this information in far more of a complex, accurate way than me and can argue it. So that as it relates to developing software, and specifically apps, I think all of you guys are kind of the app experts in your circle of influence, your community, your family, your friends, your buddies. Oh, you make apps. And you're like, yeah, I make apps. Really? What do you do, right? And sometimes I think they might say, hey, will you make me one? Or will you make the Little League one? Or whatever. They value your ability to interpret that information that is otherwise free. Right? It's not a secret that it's free. It's just that there's a huge part of the population who isn't ever going to dig in that stuff. They just don't care. You guys care, and that's why you're valuable. And you can maybe do something technically. Compile, submit, make the screen spin the other way, whatever. So I just want you guys to think that all of that stuff on the previous slide is absolutely, or the slide before that, this one, it's completely reasonable to do these kinds of things. You can absolutely make money doing these kinds of things, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame in the idea that maybe I don't like it, right? The copycatting and all that kind of stuff. I just want you to know that it is absolutely short-sighted. It is absolutely going to end very soon. 8 months, 9, I mean, how long are you going to make money off your thing? So the only way that that can be justified is if you're going to make a boatload of money. You're going to be going to the bank with a wheelbarrow, you're good, right? Well, I mean, how many times does that happen? You know, this idea that you're going to get rich, or you're going to have the big house, or the big fancy boat, or whatever the draw is, there's really a gold rush mentality right now. And it's crazy how we get pulled into that. Because it's really appealing to maybe make the Angry Birds. I mean, it really is. It's hard to, but the chances are hundreds of thousands, if not millions to one, that even your app that is amazing and gorgeous and beautiful is going to get you wealthy. It's just not going to be a good plan. So I don't want you to, I'm not trying to like pop your bubble or whatever. I'm just trying to be genuine and true. And I think recognizing that might make it a little bit more fun when you make Angry Birds. Because you still should make that awesome app that you want to make, but just for a different reason. You're not assuming it's going to go to the top of the charts, right? That's just a bad way to do things if it's money that you're trying to make consistently for a long period of time. So all these little systems and all these little, processes and scheming, really, they're just short term. And I would argue that anybody who has one of these schemes or systems or processes or boot camps or whatever you want to call it wouldn't be able to demonstrate to me any length of sustainability for any of these models. Right? This market's 4 years old basically now, and none of these have worked for 4 years. They'll work for 4 months or they'll work for, specific little things, but I just don't want you guys to think that way. I want you to think with your brains instead of, and I want you to think about the value that you have, not being tool guy, anybody can get the tools. Anybody can get these tools. Not being, systematic cheat, let's get around the system rules kind of guy. Let's think about genuine value. And the way that you interpret the enterprise and the market and the need for that customer is hugely valuable. Hugely valuable. We talked about the Multimedios app yesterday. I don't know any secrets, right, to helping those people have a good app. It's not a secret to me. The lawyer doesn't consider these books a secret. He just knows them very well and he can have a conversation about it. So it was literally a conversation with a company who had a lot of cool content who didn't understand anything. So that's where the value, so they give you money to help them understand. And so I would encourage you guys to keep your ears open and keep your eyes open and try to entertain the idea that when your buddy says, hey, can you make me an app? You say, yeah, let's have a conversation about that. Instead of saying, oh, I can't do that. That's too complicated for me. The complicated part is the code part, is the tool part. Lots of people will help you with that. The part that your buddy needs is your brain and your perception and that relationship that he has with you and only you, because no one else can help him in his mind. You're the guy. So you absolutely have the skill to understand the market and kind of what's necessary for him to succeed. And sharing with him the idea that it'll only work on a couple of devices, that's valuable. Sharing with him the idea that there might be more work after you make it because it's content-centric and it needs to be managed and babysat and backed, that's valuable to him. Right? He doesn't understand this stuff when he says, make my Little League app, wherever Mark is. Where's Mark? He's hiding. That stuff is important and valuable. And the professionals in our industry think that way. The long-term people in our industry think that way. The short-term people in our industry, and frankly, some of the people who kind of tarnish our industry, don't think that way. They don't care about the customer in 8 months. They don't care about the fact that this thing's only going to work on 2 devices. They just want the $600 and the click done. That's all short thinking. It just is. And so I'm really passionate about this concept. Some people will accuse me of being able to make money because I have like tons of experience and it's easy for you, terms like this, it's easy for you to say because you have read all these books. You can communicate like the attorney. That's absolutely true. I totally can. But I haven't always been able to do that. I didn't have a secret inside to the app store any faster than anybody else. I've just been paying attention. And I feel like I can have a conversation with somebody who needs their app problem solved in a way that isn't code related. And you guys will be surprised how much that's worth. And so I want to talk the last part of this. How much time do we have? Well, my flight leaves, Monday or whatever. I get this question a lot, and I'd like to hear from those around us. What should it cost if someone wants to hire me to make an app? What should it cost? $100? But not me, but you, anybody. What should it cost to hire someone to help you make an app? $500, $10,000, $100,000, $200,000, $500,000? Anybody want to take a stab at this? What should it cost? I believe that there's a very concrete answer to this question, but let's hear some guesstimates.
I think a reasonably simple app, a good rule of thumb, if you want iPhone, $1,000. You want parcels, we'll stop doing line item. You know, which is,
Yeah. I'm not going to pick on Keith, but this is common and a perfect answer, but we're going to have a little dialogue here and see if he's got tough skin. If I'm a customer and I say how much and you give me that rhetoric,
I wouldn't say I'm a customer. Yeah,
that-
okay,
right?
okay.
It's complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
How much? That's what people want to know. And we struggle with that thought, which is why I say I'm picking on you. That's where we all go. We're like, I don't know how much it's going to be crazy. It's going to be working for a month, that it's going to be 50. It's hard to know that number, right? So we're all of a sudden at a disadvantage because we're like, we're sweating and we don't know what to say. Even if that's in the typed out response, whatever, whether it's in person, in an email, or in a document, how much? So that is true. There's got to be some kind of way in your mind to calculate this number, but that ain't going to work. Customers don't want to hear that. They want the number. They don't want the calculation to figure out the number. They want the number. So of course we can't give them the number. So anybody else want to take a stab at how I answer it? I have this answer. What do you say?
It's completely dependent on the value you want me to provide.
Okay. So I'll be the customer, or you be the developer. I already told you what I wanted you to provide me, Jim. I gave you this big, long list of PDF stuff that my hack web guy can't do. I got your number out of the guy at church. You're the man. How much? This is what they'll tell you. This is what they say, right? You're the guy. You're my app guy. Or at least I hope you are. So it depends on the value. I agree. I don't know what the number is. You get nervous, right? You're like, ah.
Is that 2 weeks?
It's hard to answer the question, right? We all struggle with this, all of us. So we're going to do a little economics test that we also talked about last night, and then we'll go back to the price. Who knows the economics textbook definition of what is the price of something? What should the price be? There's a concrete answer on a test. If you were taking the economics SAT test, what is the price of something? That's a great answer, and the answer I love, but it's not the technical, theoretical, classical answer. Huh? Perfect. When the supply line intersects the demand line, that's the price. Right? It's like witchcraft. You tell that to a customer, like, what are you talking about? It doesn't mean anything, but it's a good discussion point because in this case, Jim is the only supply. Jim's the only guy I know on the freaking earth that can do this for me. He's the supply. He has the power. I'm the demand. Jim's got all kinds of people who need his help. A lot of demand for Jim. I'm the customer. I'm at a disadvantage. Really. And it doesn't give Jim license to take advantage of me, but it definitely gives Jim license the opportunity to be a professional and say something like, it's hard for me to determine what the price of your app's going to be without knowing more. That's a fair answer. So then it becomes another question. It's hard for me to determine what the price of your development job is going to be or your app's going to be without knowing more. I tend to think that the price of an app is related to the price of not making it. I'll give you another question. How much is the app? I don't know. What's it going to cost you to not make this? You have a lawnmower company, Toro. It's a $100 million company. What happens if you're not on the iPad? Ooh. Who's sweating now, Mr. Toro executive? Right? I don't think you realize that, but I think we can both agree that it's a lot of money and this is urgent and you need this done. So if you talk about it in those terms, what does it cost to not do this? It changes it from $1,000 to $10,000 to $20,000. You're the supply, they're the demand, they're screwed without you, right? So when you're, and I'm not suggesting that you guys go out and proclaim that you can get $100,000 to make a tap thing. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I am suggesting is do not sell yourself short. If you position your mind and your belief structure around the idea that you are an expert, you might not believe it because you hang out with other experts. But in your area of influence, in the lawn mowing, golf course equipment business, you're the expert in apps. You are. And you know that. And so if somebody who has a golf course needs another app related, he can charge a lot of money. And so we can use that example over and over and over and over again. If another drag strip needs an application, he's the expert. If another fitness person needs the application, he's the expert, right? Over and over. And so it becomes really, really powerful when you believe that. Like, I know this stuff better than anybody in this vertical. I don't need to be bashful. So the last thing about price is, it's far more expensive for you to take that very, very enticing $5,000 job and work on it for $1 an hour because you did it for 3 months than it is to just say no thanks. Right? If somebody came to me and said, I'm going to give you $5,000 to do nothing else but work on my app for 3 months, I mean, think about how silly that is. We've all, I think, done a lot of that experimenting. You're like, what have I done? It felt like a lot of money. Felt like it was going to be easy. Dude, 6 weeks in, you're like, can I just pay you back? Can I just, gotta cash the check? It's like, ah. Right, I think we've all been there. I think we've all done that. And so it's completely okay to say no. It's completely okay to say to yourself, I'm the guy with the power here, not this customer. This is crazy. That's completely okay. And once you have that confidence, the thing that I have is confidence. I am not intimidated by some guy at some big conglomerate company who says, we want you to do. I'm like, fine, I don't care. And that is important and powerful and part of why I can do this kind of. I'm not nervous about talking to you guys, right? When you're confident with what you're talking about because you believe that, you're right, and you have facts, you have the books behind you. You can always go look it up if you have to. So you guys can all do that. It isn't code that's value. It is not code. It has a value, don't get me wrong. And you'll learn that by maybe having to hire someone to do it for you. But it's not the code itself that's the value. It's the deep understanding that you have of the market, the hardware, the system, the distribution, the customer, the changing. You guys could talk to a client for half an hour about all the different types of change that we're going to face together, me as a developer, you as a company, you as a customer. That's valuable stuff. Right? They have no idea. And they need you to answer these questions for them. So I'm happy to stand up here all day long and talk about price questions. I'm pretty intense about it. When you fix cars for a living, you sell. You're a salesman and a mechanic. And I've sold a lot of stuff. And I've always sold it honestly and upfront and very transparently with facts. It's like, look, dude, here's the facts. Your water pump leaks. It's $400. I'll give you a story along those lines in terms of having confidence. Guy's car blows up. It's going to be about $2,000 to fix it. $2,000. I need this $2,000 really bad. Really bad. Like, woohoo, his car's blown up, right? I mean, I was, happy to see this car. So this particular customer, who those of you who participated in the Mark Tuttle conversation, Mark Tuttle gave him the quote. Mark Tuttle, for those who weren't here around last night, was the pretend owner of the shop. Because me, the actual owner, spent too much time dealing with solicitors who wanted to talk to the owner, so we made up a pretend owner. So Mark had sent this quote to this customer, $2,000. Customer comes to the shop to find me, to argue and yell with the owner that $2,000's not fair. So I kind of came clean with him. I said, look, I'm the guy who's telling you it's $2,000. This Mark Tuttle guy. It's all, you and I, let's have the conversation. So he wanted to offer me $1,600. I'll give you $1,600 to fix my car. In his mind, that was fair. I said, no, it's $2,000. And he couldn't understand why I wouldn't take the $1,600. It looked very obvious that I could have used the $1,600 because all the guys are sitting on their hands. There's nothing to fix. I mean, the shop is a ghost town. And I'm like, nope, $2,000. And he kind of leans over the desk and he says, so let me get this straight. You'd rather not take my $1,600. When you have nothing to do, you'd rather sit around and go broke than take my $1,600. I said, yeah. Because whether I take your $1,600 or not, I'm going to sit around and go broke. And I'd rather do it not working on your car. If I don't work on your car, I'm going to make money. Or I'm not going to work on your car. It's that simple. $2,000. And that's what the perspective you have to have. If I'm going to be working on your software BS for the next 3 months, I love to do it, and I'm really good at it. But you got to pay me, or there's just no reason to even start the project. And so once you get that confidence in your head, people believe you because it's true. And you don't need to explain it. You just tell them, this is the price, this is why, this is a complicated project. It's interesting to think about what it might cost you if you don't do this development job, so we should probably move quickly, right? Let's get this figured out, because it's costing you every day you don't have this app. School district, Toro, whatever, customer, whatever. It doesn't matter who the customer is. So that's a fun little story about price and not budging off your price as it relates to sales. And the takeaways from this are, understand that you are more of an expert than you may realize. Understand that code and technical things and tools are not necessarily that valuable. Clearly they are. I mean, I'd like to think that our community is valuable and all that's based on code, but not really, right? We're not here for code. So we've got that idea that it's not the technical part that has the value. And then the last part is very few people know what you know already, even in your infancy as developers, if you want to call yourself a developer, which isn't a label that everybody has. So hopefully that's a unique twist on making money with apps that you might not have heard and you probably won't hear from almost anyone you listen to or anyone you Google or whatever, because that information is generally just regurgitated versions of the same old thing, which is fine, but we tend to offer things around here that are a little bit different than regurgitated versions of the same old stuff. So I've made a lot of money in this business already, and it isn't on BuzzTouch. People call me all the time, and I do a lot of expensive jobs as David that you guys don't even hear about, right? It's just not part of my persona necessarily. I'm trying to run this very public thing and trying to grow this very public thing, and there's lots of things I do to feed us, feed the books. You've all heard me talk about this car business that I have. I sell technology products to the car industry. Still do that, big part of my living. So all these different little pieces lead people to call me and ask me how much. And they all ask me the same question, how much? And I always answer it the same way. Got a pretty sophisticated project. It's hard for me to say without knowing more. How much will it cost you if you don't do this? Huh? That's my answer. They're like, what the? They don't hear this from people. Trish, you have a question?
I was just going to ask, and I would love to hear how you
Sure.
respond. So say, for instance, you make that case to the client,
Mhm.
and it's really credible. And then what if they come back and say, oh, well, I have a friend who got an app made similar to this, and it didn't cost that much.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you sort of counter that?
I would say, great, is it a good app?
Right.
Use that one. Let's hire him.
That's what I thought you would say.
I was under the impression you wanted something better than that, which is why you called me. I don't know. Clearly you haven't.
Yeah, because clients too, and sometimes they don't know what they don't know. So
Clearly, so I enlightened them. I'm like, why don't you look at that app?
take that education, because they might think, well, this is a perfectly fine app.
And if it is a
You have to
good
go a step
solution,
further and inform them that, like, this app is going to be a lot better.
I'll get right to Sue. And that's a great point. The progressive insurance model, put everybody's price on the screen, let the customer decide. Right? This is progressive rate, all state rate, state farm rate, all that kind of stuff. Works good in the technology business too. If you're confident that you don't mind if you don't get this job because you don't want a job that's going to drive you broke, and you'd rather sit on your hands and do nothing and go broke than work on somebody's car and go broke, then you can clearly say to them very comfortably, maybe that other app is a good solution.
Right.
Maybe that other developer is a good solution. Let's call them. And they're like, they already know they don't want that guy. Or they wouldn't be calling you. There's something wrong with that thing. Or they wouldn't. So just talk about it. Sue?
But in your experience, aren't you doing more competitive bidding? Like I know if I was back in my old corporate job and I was going to make an app, I would have probably found 3 or 4 people. I would have been expected to
Yeah.
get 3 or 4 different people.
Quotes.
Quotes in, and then also look at it would not necessarily go with the cheapest quote, but it would also look at the whole package. I'd be
Sure.
expected to look at a package.
Yeah.
Do you run into that?
A little bit, and I have two comments on that. That's a great question. Generally speaking, so far, I haven't had to battle with like being compared to someone else. It's not completely true, and I'm going to give you an example, but generally speaking, people say how much, and then they're not shopping this because there's not a whole lot of supply. Remember, we're the supply. And so that's generally not the case. But what does end up happening, and they're not really comparing, but they're asking questions about it, is they'll go from your relatively expensive professional rate, whatever that is, let's say it's a $10,000 job, to this, I found a guy who will do it for $500 kind of comparison. Happens all the time. And this is the Odesk comparison. This is the Rent-A-Coder. This is the freelancer, e-lancer comparison, which is a very valuable comparison. And I always say the same thing. Have you talked to this guy? Generally, it's no. It's email. Okay. Might not be a bad investment for $500. My suspicion is, based on the complexity of what we just talked about and discovered together, that this guy's not going to be able to deliver what you told me you needed for $500. Maybe he can. And in the whole scheme of things, in a $10,000 project, Let's spend $500, see what you get. I doubt you're going to get a lot. Maybe we start from there. Go ahead, LA.
Not totally off the subject.
Yeah.
How do you get your name out there?
Make apps. I know that's the chicken and egg problem, and that's a great question. When you make something for somebody, it's amazing who will find out that you made it. So that's one. In my case, I benefit in terms of the volume of sales. I benefit from some exposure from BuzzTouch. I benefit from some exposure to you guys. People know me. I benefit from exposure from doing this for 15 years. I benefit from exposure of having lots and lots of car customers. Right, I have got a credibility and a past that leads me, brings me leads. And so another way to ask your question is, how do I get leads? There's a difference between how do I answer questions and write RFPs to how do you get leads. So that's a big difference. And how to get leads is actually a wonderful topic, and we should probably have a whole discussion about it. I'll touch on it slightly. How do you get leads? One way, and this is kind of a crazy way, buzztouch.com. Thousands of people come to the site who have no idea what's going on and need help. I'm not going to advocate all of you guys just completely whoring the forums, excuse my French, and saying, dude, $50, I'll do this. It happens sometimes and it's uncomfortable, but clearly there's some relationship building going on there, and it's clearly appropriate to ask those questions or to offer that help at the right time. I think we can all trust each other to understand what I mean there. But that's one place. You already have credibility that you don't even recognize. People in this room, right? Just because we know how doesn't mean we always can. So we might need to hire you that you already know as an app builder. And so you have that. Fundamentally, what it boils down to, though, is getting exposure is sometimes hard. It does take time. And in any industry, that lead gen or that lead generation is the challenge. It's not the sales. It's where's the demand.
Now,
And so,
another quick question. Let's say $5,000 you agree upon.
sure.
Is it a contract? And you
Yes.
get the money up front?
Yes. So there's a contract, and in fact, I meant to bring it. Let me shift gears and come back to that real quick. Your guys' folders, there's some very basic stuff in here. There's a couple of offers from applets. They reached out and said, hey, if you guys want to have some design stuff, this is not an ad for them, so I'm not going to talk about it, but this stuff is in here kind of for you, BuzzTouch event members only. This Make App Magazine is kind of one of those things, which is kind of cool. If you're not a Make App Magazine subscriber, it is kind of cool. Get the first 3 months. Doesn't cost anything. You can cancel and it won't charge you anything, but it does cost if you continue. I've been continuing. It's like $9 an episode or a subscription. But anyway, in this, I meant to put an example RFP. When I say RFP, request for proposal. And so a client will put out an RFP. If you're fortunate enough to get it, that's your lead. That's your lead. And then you reply with a statement of work, an SOW. So I was going to put a sample RFP in here and a sample SOW. And there's 1,000 templates for these. There's 1,000 templates for these. Most of them are very sterile and lame and not personal, and they don't reflect the idea that you're the pro and you understand their problem better than anybody, and you're the guy who has, the supply control. They're pretty generic, and I wouldn't recommend using generic because you have to demonstrate in your statement of work that you understand their problem. Because if you don't understand their problem, the value just erodes away. Well, by the time they get to the end of it, you're almost worth nothing if you don't understand their problem. And so the first top part of your statement of work, and my advice, would be called the abstract. It's a little paragraph. Title it Abstract. And you explain in very clear words what you're going to do and why it's a problem. The problem with the lawn company in South Wisconsin is their lawnmower equipment manuals aren't on the iPad. This statement of work is going to address that problem and provide a quote to do that. Right? Very plain and simple. Abstract. They know that you know what they need. That's where the value lies. If they know that you know what they need, they're relieved instantly. Because you do know what they need, or you wouldn't be able to write that. So you can't just email SOWs all over the place and expect to get high quality work and a reputation. Not going to work. You have to know what they need, just like any other industry. Attorney guy couldn't give you legal advice without knowing the problem. I couldn't fix a car without knowing the problem. Joe? You have your hand up?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you can scratch your face.
You said sold 5,000 up front.
No, so as it relates to the money part, I go half and half. I go half and half. And I go half and half with a time limit. This is my little out clause. right? I go half and half for the time limit. The project in the statement of work, the project should take about 90 days to complete. It's always difficult to know with technology bids. The target is May 31st, which means halfway done will be April 14th. On our April 14th meeting, if we're not halfway done, we need to figure out another plan, which might include game over, here's your money back. So take half the money and don't cash the check until halfway done. I'm serious.
How can I get,
You never know what's going to happen.
can you email me?
Yeah, I meant to include it in the folder. That's what I was trying to say. I'll provide you guys with this generalized text that I use. But you can't use it unless you know what it means. It is not, you genuinely have to know what you're talking about, or it's not going to work. But if you do know what you're talking about and you have that control and that confidence, nobody loses, right? This is not about taking advantage of people. It's about doing good work for good pay that you deserve, being organized and delivering a good product. And if it doesn't work out, you're not a criminal if you get halfway through this and the rules of the game change and all of a sudden a mini comes out and it's not going to work on a mini, which is what the guy bought. You just say, you know what, this isn't going to work. That's not what we were doing. Well, what are we going to do now? You want to start over? You just have to have the conversation. But you got to give yourself that out in the description when you bid. Half up front, we're meeting halfway through, I'll get the rest at the end, and it'll work generally. And if it runs over, big deal. They love you. Right? They love you. They need you. Has anybody done any expensive development work more than $500? Tim has, Jim has. Take a shot at it, Miguel. What have you done? Give me an example.
Some apps for the client.
Okay.
One of them is about his clinic. We got a big clinic.
Okay.
A health clinic in Portugal.
Awesome.
So I was developing an app for him and for his clinic actually, and then one for him personally because he's a.
Can you share the number with us? How much they paid you? Or you're not comfortable?
€1,000, so that's
$1,000? No, $1,500.
Yeah, so around 15.
And how long will it take you?
I don't know.
What's your statement of work say?
Maybe.
A week, maybe. So good money.
Yeah, good.
Awesome. I do that every week, right? That's good. So you just need more leads. What have you done, Tim? I know a little bit about it, but tell the gang. Okay. Yeah, but if you can share a number with everyone. $2,600. How long did it take you? It was a pain in the ass. Okay. Okay, but that first week of grind and then some smoke you had to deal with for a couple of months. Well, but you had a community to help you, right? You had a network. It's not a crime to ask your buddy. Bye, Avi. Thank you. It's not a crime to draw on your relationships and your colleagues. I don't mind when people ask me for help. Thank you. You know, a lot of people start their email, let's talk about that, Tim. A lot of people start their email with, sorry to bother you. Really, I get this every day. And it's appropriate and it's comfortable and I understand where that comes from. I'd rather hear opportunity to help me. I'm serious. Because I believe that if I told Tim, dude, I can help you, but it's going to be a while, he'd be fine with that.
We can email you for help?
I get it every day. It doesn't mean I'm going to help you, though. I'm serious. I can't possibly help everyone who asks me. That's the fact. But that doesn't mean you have to be sorry for asking for help. That's the whole point. When you go to a forum and you ask for help, there's nobody guaranteeing you're going to get an answer. You trust that maybe somebody will come through and help you out. Same thing with sending me an email. It doesn't bother me. That's a privilege. That's what we do, right? Send anybody you want an email. It's their responsibility to answer you or not. That's the way that works. You'll probably get something like, hey, cool problem, I'll get to it when I can, and it becomes your obligation to kind of nudge me if you don't hear anything. And you might get, I'm a pretty transparent guy, sorry. I told a bunch of people no last night, I'm in St. Louis.
I'm just amazed at $1,000 a week. Wow.
$1,000 a week?
Yeah.
About $1,000 a week for Miguel? Yeah, it's good money. What's an attorney make?
I could imagine making $1,000.
$1,000 an hour?
Yeah, I could imagine making that.
Well, you can imagine it. Yeah, Sue? Uh-oh. Sending me emails, forums, help.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What I was going to say is that what's really cool that now it used to be that we could only ask David,
Right.
for everything. And now I think the community is stronger, and I think our collective development skills have gotten a lot stronger. So now you can maybe ask Kitsy, you can maybe ask Chris.
And that already happens, right?
It
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Mhm.
And so it's really cool to see how our community has developed, and then we've developed relationships with the other. I'm very glad we have you to catch us when we
Sure. And this is another myth. I don't know everything. Contrary to what some of you may think. Right? Yeah, what? I don't know all this stuff. I look at the books behind I go to the reference. What I do know that you don't seem to understand as completely as me is how to use the documentation as well. Because it's complicated and it's hard and it's nerdy and it's weird. And because you don't have the foundation in programming that I have, it becomes very, very challenging. If I flew to Portugal and I was lost and I got a map written in Portuguese, I could kind of use it. You know, kind of. But when it really got down to it, I'm pretty lost. I'm almost there, but I can't quite read this thing as I get right as it left. Same idea, right? You guys can kind of get it and kind of help each other. And in some cases, you can help each other 500 times more than you could before. But it makes perfect sense that some people wouldn't be able to interpret the documentation. That's fine. That's just a technical thing. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to look up page 433. But it does help to know that it's on about that page and kind of where to go. Right? That is hard. I totally get that. So I don't mind doing that stuff. I mean, I wish that I could do more. And I'm, blessed to have a lot of you guys helping each other.
I'm sending you a lot of emails tonight.
Which is cool.
His email just changed.
Yeah. Time? What time is it?
It's 3:45.
And we were gonna have a talk with Sue and get out of here by about 4:30.
Right. So here's the situation. We have to leave the room by 4:30.
Okay.
We gotta.
We can lock them out.
The food line for the wedding reception
Okay.
is in here.
Okay.
They're gonna throw us out.
No, we'll be fine. Okay.
So it looks like we're not gonna get to Sue's presentation.
Or we start it right now.
We can start right now.
we go to the bar.
How much time do you need?
I think we should have at least, I could do it in a half hour if we have to.
If you can do it in a half an hour, let's do it.
Perfect. So let's do this, and I'll wrap this up. Sue can get ready.
Can I have one guy to
Chris can have 1 minute.
While Sue is getting ready, you're getting your stuff together, I want to ask you, David,
Mhm.
because you've kind of pointed to the folders,
Yeah.
but you said you were going to talk more about what's
Yeah.
in the folder.
Exactly. Let me mention that real fast. I'll wrap this up. So the other thing that's in the folder is a letter from me to you. It's a personal letter. They're not all the same. Most of them are pretty close. I only cursed at a few of you. It generally says thanks, and that is sincere. I hope that you guys believe that. I think that you do now after spending a day and a half with us. So that's cool. There's a lifetime certificate in here. Lifetime membership certificate. This might seem cheesy to you. It is kind of cheesy. It's the best I could do.
No, it's not cheesy.
I'd rather put cash in here. I'd rather give you $100 market credit. Can't afford it. That's honest. 10 years this might have some value. I don't know. But this was kind of just an idea. So you guys won't be charged ever, right? That's awesome.
No, thank you.
So you're welcome. So the coupon things, we told you about that. Anybody know what this is yet? Ah, forum points. Forum points. So hopefully these will go up.
I want to check out the room if there's a room number or something.
True story, while I wrap this up, I actually went to the bank and I was going to bring pennies. How many pennies is this? 250 bucks? That's a shitload of pennies, right? I was going to bring like $800 worth of pennies and give you that many pennies and laugh at you when you earn like 80 cents based on your participation. We're constantly trying. I couldn't afford to fly them here. It's like ridiculous how much the weight. But this is how many points you have in the forum. So I'm always thinking of ways to try to take advantage of that and use them as a genuine thanks. There's a few holes in that system, like how you get points, and we all know that. But they are kind of cool, and they have finally established some kind of meaning, right? It's kind of neat. And so maybe the next time we get together, I'll have something more thoughtful about that. But that was the idea there. So thanks again. I'll help you make money as much as I can, but I won't really help you much if you're kind of a schemer. I just don't have any passion for it. I mean, it doesn't mean that I have a problem with that. I'm just not really entertained by helping people with stuff. So Chris needs a couple minutes. You were going to say something?
One thing, did you mention the cool badge in the form?
I didn't, but it says that in your letter. When you guys get back home and you look at the form on Monday, you'll have a lifetime member badge. No one else will have. Have a little 13 next to it. Can't ever get it again, right? Basic little stuff that we can do. It's going to be cool. I got it, you don't, too bad. Right, so that'll be kind of neat. Yeah, and there's some people in the top 25 who'll be like, what? You're like, dude. Good, wonderful. It's priceless to me too. Chris was going to say something, and then I got 30 more seconds.